Welcome, everybody, to episode 3 of the Big Ben and Friends podcast. I am Big Ben Ortmanns, and this week we are going to get to know one of my friends from the MMA business a little bit better. This man is a Canadian MMA pioneer, which he just loves being called. I'm pretty sure he started fighting for a living at the age of 7. I could be wrong. He could correct me. This man is an OG member of God's gift to MMA, at least in my eyes, which was Team Tompkins. He is a veteran of the IFL, International Fight League, where they fought in teams, as a matter of fact, which is we'll get to later, as a member of the Anacondas, and was a hired assassin of Sean Tompkins and Boz Rutan for such team. He is also a veteran of the WEC, Bellator, World Series of Fighting, and is one of the very few people that, in my opinion, beat the shit out of Donald Cerrone standing in a striking battle. He is the co-owner of the Adrenaline Training Center and is currently hosting free online classes on their Facebook pages as well for those that are interested. He's also one of my favorite human beings on earth. Everybody welcome my friend Chris, the Polish Hammer Horodecki.
Hey,
how are you doing, sir?
What's up, brother? How you doing today, man?
Man,
up, man? Nice, fantastic introduction. Today also, we're going to have, my girlfriend wanted to step in, so you just met her. This is Angela.
Yes, I was going to leave this introduction to you because that's up to you to blow.
So I want to give Angela an opportunity to kind of go out there, speak a little bit. She's in the jiu-jitsu scene. She's a jiu-jitsu competitor, blue belt under the Jiu-Jitsu for Life team under James Hort. So governed head of George Brito under James Hort now. We both know James very, very well.
Scrappy-doo.
And Angela's a badass competitor. She's won a bunch of tournaments of late. Right now, everything's kind of been on hold.
Yeah, that sucks.
Super fight, match of the night winners. So I'm giving Angela a little opportunity here to kind of meet out and meet a good friend of mine, Ben Ortmanns. And yeah, so she's a badass. And as well as, that's just the jiu-jitsu stuff. She's a mental health advocate. She works for the Canadian Mental Health Association.
Wow.
She's very, very knowledgeable all about the mental health scene, which we both know is so important today. And a lot of people are struggling in this world at the moment because of mental health, because of the inability to being on this quarantine, being on this lockdown that everyone's on right now. There's a lot of mental health issues. And if you have any questions or if any of the fans have questions, this is the person to talk to. She is the mental health warrior. So.
Well, I'm going to make sure that I put her social media, like her Instagram and Twitter. Do you have Twitter?
No, I just have Instagram, and okay. I have a Facebook page, but that's kind of.
Yeah, they don't need your Facebook page. I'll be more than happy to put your Instagram page up there, and please, honestly, if anybody does have any questions, we all know we're going through a hard time right now. Hit her up. Ange is, if Chris says that Ange is the lady to speak to, then trust me, Ange is the lady to speak to. So one thing that I want to do, guys, especially getting to know a new friend here, I do want to make sure that we're all comfortable. We got a drink handy. You guys got some handy to go there?
Drinking a nice coffee. What are you drinking there, Ben?
I've actually got a little bit of Proper 12 in my cup right now just because I like to try to relax during these things. I've always felt like I was a shitty communicator, so I've got my little bottle of liquid courage there for me, but I've also got my water too because
you're doing a great job, man. You've been doing a great job. So
well, thank you very much, buddy. So one thing that I always start these interviews out with, if that's what you want to call them, is again, the whole point of these podcasts are to get to know my friends a little bit better. And one thing that's always cool for me is just to find out what your memory was of how we met and how we became friends. Because this is actually a really, really important story in my life. So I'm kind of curious just to see how you remember this.
So now, I'll remind you, I've had a lot of fights and I've been around for 32 years now. So my memory might not be 100% the best. But if I do remember correctly, you came in to Adrenaline when we were located on Dundas Street.
Yep.
Between 3rd and Clark. And you were inquired, you had just moved to London.
Yeah.
Right, and you had inquired about doing some training, and you told me that you used to be a pro wrestler, and I'm like, well, that's pretty damn cool, man. Like that's awesome because I'm a huge wrestling fan. I'm a big wrestling fan. Like growing up, and to this day, I don't follow it as closely, just because it's just time and busy in life, and
there's so much wrestling too, so it's hard to keep up.
I'm a big fan, and I remember hearing that, and I was like, wow, Ben, that's pretty damn awesome. And I think that was the first way we met, right? You came in for a class?
Yes. So you're 100% right, but there's actually a lot more substance to this. And I'm actually really excited to kind of tell you this story just in case you don't remember. So when I first started training at Adrenaline, I went down there the one day and I just wanted to try something new because I was getting out of the pro wrestling business and I just needed something to kind of keep myself sane. I was sitting on my couch one day and it dawned on me that I had put on like almost 40 pounds since I had stopped wrestling. And there was like, this was in like 3 or 4 months. And I just had this weird epiphany where I knew I needed to do something. And I had heard that Adrenaline was a thing and that it was around and it was owned by like these UFC fighters. And oddly enough, at the time I was sitting and I was watching an episode of The Ultimate Fighter. And as I'm watching this, because truth be told, because as a pro wrestler, especially during this time, like when MMA was really starting to boom, I was never really interested in like the art of fighting. I was always interested in the art of pro wrestling, that kind of fighting.
Yeah.
So once I started watching this show, I wasn't interested in the fighting aspect of it. I was more interested in like how the training aspect of it. And
right.
I was like hemming and hawing about going down there. And finally, the one day I just built up the courage and I didn't have a car, a bike, nothing. I walked an hour and a half each way from where I was living on 2nd Street. No, not 2nd Street. This was, I can't remember what road it was, but it was an hour and a half each way. I got to the gym. Mark Hominick was there hitting pads with Fitz. And I remember walking to the gym thinking, hey, listen, I know that I'm not going to go in there and be able to take these guys. But I'm a pro wrestler, and if they're gonna try to fuck with me, at least I think I can handle myself because like I get roughed up on a like a regular occurrence, right? And I just remember walking in and I saw Hominick hitting pads with Fitz, and it sounded like a fucking machine gun. And I just remember laughing, and I was just like, okay, like I just want to do what you guys do. Teach me that. You were not there for the first 3 weeks that I started at Adrenaline. You were not there. During those 3 weeks, I was trying to let people know that I was a pro wrestler. So then that way in my mind, they would be like, oh, okay, well, this is his background. This is how we're going to have to work with him. Right. Because again, watching The Ultimate Fighter, you see how they coach. So I'm just like, okay, so these coaches need to know everything about me. So that way they can teach me how to do what they do. They did not take it that way. Nobody did. Everybody thought that I was this pro wrestler that was coming into their gym to fucking like get over on them or something. Nobody liked me. There was maybe 1 or 2 people that were like nice to me, but everybody else was very, very hard on me. And especially at the time when Adrenaline was still Fight Club. It wasn't quite the family gym that it has become and turned into. Yeah. So I was ready to quit. I was sitting on the edge of the boxing ring the one day and I was taking in my sights and everything. And you had just gotten back from a fight. And you had won. I can't remember who you fought, but you'll remember which card I'm talking about here in a second, because when I got back, I was literally sitting on the edge of the ring. I'm getting ready to kind of take everything in one last time, because when I was walking out that door, I was never planning to come back. You walked in, and as I was standing up getting ready to leave, you were just like, hey, are you Ben the wrestler? And as soon as you said that, I broke down. And I don't know if you remember this, but I tried not to cry because I was just like, man, are you fucking with me right now? Because like I'm about ready to leave, and like you're being nice to me where nobody else was being nice to me. And you were just like, no. I fucking love wrestling. As a matter of fact, I just fought on a card with Bobby Lashley.
Nice. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. I fought in Mississippi.
Yes. So then I was just like, wait a sec, what? And as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, maybe this guy's not fucking with me. And you're just like, oh yeah, dude, I spent more time trying to talk to him about wrestling than I did even worrying about my fight. That's how worried I was. And he's like, it was so awesome. I got to talk to Bobby fucking Lashley. Yeah. And then you sat and talked to me for about an hour after that. And you basically convinced me to stay. And I was just like, well, fuck, okay. Like, all right, maybe I'll give this a go. And like you really put that thought in my head to stay. And then I don't know if this was on purpose, if this was something that you remember, but I know for a fact that you did this. The moment that I got home from that walk home, which again took me an hour and a half, there was a message on my Facebook from Sean Tompkins, who I had never spoken a word to in my life, just idolized the hell out of him.
Yeah.
exact same question you asked me when you first like said to me. It's like, are you Ben the wrestler? At this point, I'm like, oh no, they are fucking with me. So I'm just like, all right, sir, I get it. I apologize. I've offended you and your team. I won't come back. That is not what my intentions were. You're not the guy I'm trying to piss off here. Like, please don't be this guy. And he wrote me a response back that basically said, it's not obviously word for word, but he essentially said, if you even let the thought enter your head to quit, he's just like, I will forever be disappointed in you. He's like, the fact that you're a pro wrestler, I think is the coolest thing in the world. He's like, if anybody, and I mean anybody from that gym, and he starts going over names that I'm not going to mention, but you know damn well who. And he's just like, if this person, if they fuck with you, you tell me, because that's getting dealt with right away. He's just like, the fact that I've got a pro wrestler on my team in Canada makes my fucking heart happy, and you're staying. I was just like, I guess I'm staying. Yeah. So that was literally my first time meeting you. It was a life-changing day for me.
That's very cool. Yeah, no, that's the thing about Sean. Like, he was, even with like virtual, like, you've never met the guy, but just like, yeah, he had that essence about himself that he would be able to say something. You take it so much to heart. You're like, wow, okay, this guy, like, he means business.
There's no other way to put it, and then like it felt like he had this like almost fatherly, godfatherly / God type like wisdom when he spoke.
You definitely, like, when he spoke in a crowded room, like he pulled the attention to him, right? And you could definitely see that if you knew him, right? If you knew him and you've been with him, and you see the effect he had on people, and like that, like you just said, like you didn't even talk to the guy face to face, and he reached out. I thought, you doing your thing was really, really cool, man. I hope, and I think this is one of the reasons why I was like, fuck, man, don't, if I could swear, I don't know what
Yeah, I've already dropped like 3 or 4.
I was like, Ben, like, don't walk away from something you love doing, right? I think I told you that, like, if you honestly love it, like, don't go away from it. Don't ever stop doing something you love doing. And I can see now with the success you've had in you've opened your own school. You're a coach now. You're still at this time competing. You're a coach. You have pupils that are underneath you, as well as you've developed a show. So you've given people an opportunity to perform, and you have now an opportunity for these guys that are underneath you to come up and step up and perform in front of crowds, perform in front of, it's huge, man. It's a huge deal, right? And I'm very proud of you, man. It's a great thing to see. So you've done very, very well for yourself, Ben. I'm very proud of you, man.
Thank you very much, brother. That honestly means a lot to me, especially just because, like, it's weird. Like, you're one of those guys that I look at as like a older, younger brother, just because you're younger than me, but you've got that older brother influence on me, and I've always appreciated that. So, thank you very much for saying that, man. I'd have never gotten to where I'm at right now if, and again, I almost hate saying that because it sounds like I'm like somewhere, but I'm a business owner now with all of the things that you just mentioned, and I would have never had those things if I didn't have guys like you in my life who taught me how to do that and brought me up, like you and Pecker, Alex Gasson, for anybody who just thinks we're talking some fucking silly language there.
Weird freaky shit.
Well, at first when he I was like, who is this person? Like, who are they? Pecker, who's Pecker? And then I met him, and I'm like, wow, he's like the nicest guy, and he's like super successful now. And I'm like, why did they call you Pecker? Like, what is happening?
You know what? I know that I've been told the story about 40 different times, and I think I've been told 40 different versions. And I don't even care. Just I know him as Sir Pecking Claw to me, and that's my dude. And as a matter of fact, I was number 2 for like the longest time. I think he still calls me number 2 whenever I talk to him, because when I first started working at Adrenaline, like, Alex was running the show and he was managing stuff, and then like he brought me on because I wouldn't stop bugging him to just let me work there, because like I wanted to do something to help that gym out when I first started training there. And thankfully he let me do that, because again, like, that was one of those things where not only did I stick around at the gym, but it created a job for me. and it created relationships for me. It created an opportunity for me to be able to run a business for the first time and help a business progress. It was a really cool thing that I would have never had the opportunity to do what I'm doing again without you guys giving me that opportunity with your business to help that out. And I'll always be appreciative of that, man.
Sure. We got a really cool family. Like you were saying, the people that have come through the gym, like we're still in contact with each other, right? Like it's been years now. We're talking the owners, obviously myself, Mark, Hominick, Sam Stout, we've known each other for 20 years, right? We've been together for 20 years or maybe more.
That's crazy.
But like Adrenaline opened in 2008, right? So you're looking at
it's been open for 12 years.
So it's been open for 12 years almost, right? And where we have progressed, we went from basically the project of what Sean left us and trying to expand it, make it bigger, make it a facility, not just a fight club like you mentioned earlier, right? To now we moved downtown where we had a great location.
Amazing.
2 floors up and down. And now we've moved, this is our 3rd time moving, and now we have like the ultimate facility where it's like cream of the crop, and it's a great thing, and it's a huge step for us. So we're super happy, we're super proud. We're just like everybody else, we've been kind of put on hold right now with the whole pandemic and the virus and everything was happening, but people are still continuing to support. We can see the following that we have still virtually and online. And yeah, like you said earlier, we're doing classes and people appreciate that. You know what I mean? People really, really, really appreciate that, because mental health and training, it's such a big thing. Mm-hmm. And people use training as part of their mental health wellness, right? So it's a great thing, man. And I'm very proud to be a part of it and part of the growth and part of the birth, and it's nice to still be around.
Hell yeah, man. Now, one thing that I want to do is, again, like one of the biggest reasons I started this project was to get to know my friends a little bit better. And obviously it can be hard just because, like I was mentioning to you before when we were kind of getting to preface all this stuff up, like it gets difficult sometimes to kind of catch up with everybody, especially when like you're in the gym and you're just so focused on, training and getting better and business and all these other things. So, with all that being said, like, tell me a little bit about yourself that maybe I wouldn't know. Like, tell me a little bit about Chris Horodecki, the man, and maybe not the Polish hammer, so to speak.
Well, maybe Ange, you could say something. I shouldn't let her get in here.
When Chris told me he was gonna do like a podcast with you and like have a conversation and stuff, I was like, great, you're gonna tell him about the fence we just built, because he hasn't shut up about the fence we just built. So.
It's awesome.
No, but
so you're becoming a handyman.
Somewhat trying. No, but like I said, me and Ange, we actually live over here in Sarnia, Ontario. We're not far. We're actually down the street from Jesse Gross, your old roommate.
My boy, I was gonna say, do you go train in the Ghost House basement?
We have been.
We're very close to Jesse, and it's nice, man. It's real nice to see him, and he's doing well for himself. Man,
I saw him in. Yep. I saw him in Kitchener at the MMA fights recently, and right. And I got to hang out with him and Mency for about an hour, and it just made it felt so goddamn good to see those guys again. Just because, again, like as you're mentioning before, we are a very, very tight family, and even though we spend time apart, you guys are always going to be the tightest of family to me. I'll always be appreciative of those relationships. So getting to spend time with those two at that fight was so it was like soup for the soul, just because I think this is the first time I've spoken to you face to face since I even dropped down there that one day to help clean in the new venue.
Yeah. That was super cool. And, you actually stepped up and came in and helped out. But yeah, a big thing is we've had such a family, strong family, but big family. But then there's always been the core group of people, right? And the people that have kind of stuck around, that have been around, and you know, if you ever come to one of the exhibition series that we do at the gym and where everybody kind of gets together from London and the surrounding areas, like people feel that. They feel that passion that people have about the sport and the friendships that we've built. So it's a really cool thing that we have with Adrenaline, with Team Tompkins, with the core group. You see how people have been branched off and doing their own things. You got Jesse's kind of got his own little studio gym in his house, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Ghost house. And then, you know, you see Rowan's open up his own academy here in town, Force Training Center. Jesse Goff is killing it in the jiu-jitsu game. You know, he's
So proud of him, man.
doing some great things. He got promoted to black belt. He you know, he's growing as an instructor. He's you know, being basically Jesse Ronson's full-time coach. There's been a lot of growth. There's definitely been a lot of growth in the team, you know, like outside of just the core. Okay, you know, myself, Mark Hominick, Sam Stout, Chris Clements, right? There's been a lot of growth too. You know, you get Chad Laprie just got hired by the London Police.
Yeah.
A lot of growth. It's and but the thing is, everybody grows, everybody comes and expands, but you know, you still have the core values of Team Tompkins, of Adrenaline, right? So it's really
100%. And just to kind of reiterate that, like when I found out for the first time that I was going to be hired to do some extra work for the WWE, there was, I believe, 5 people who knew that was happening. There was Tid, obviously, just because him and Brady are my 2 best friends. They're always going to know everything. Faisal, just because Faisal was is my doctor, and he's the guy who I would go to for my physicals and stuff like that. And I dropped by the gym to see you and Mark when I went down to see Faisal, because it was really important to me that you guys knew that, and that you were one of the handful of people that knew that I was going to do that, because I had always said that once I had left Adrenaline, that was something that I wanted to do. That was a goal of mine, was to try to get some work there. And I just remember that I don't think a lot of people thought that I would be able to. So I remember when I actually got a chance to tell you and Mark that, when I dropped by the gym that one day, that was, I think, maybe the first time ever that Mark ever hugged me because he was proud of me.
Yeah, man.
And that meant a lot too, just because he's not very emotional.
Yeah, Mark's all business, but yeah, he does have a soft side. So to see that come out, that's really cool. And
yeah,
and that's something you should be very proud of, man. Like, you even have the smallest role to be in the WWE, which is like, this is like, that's it. Like, that's the UFC of pro wrestling. That's the NFL of pro wrestling. It doesn't get bigger than that.
Exactly. And
nobody in wrestling has any dreams other than the UFC, right? Other than except
right.
Brock Lesnar, UFC.
For sure.
Other than the WWE, right? And to even be in there and get take a step your foot in there, it's super cool, man. Super cool. So it's something to be very, very proud about.
Thanks, man. I mean, I got to be Kofi Kingston's doctor for a bunch of minutes on TV, which was awesome. And then I got to have a little tryout match in Indianapolis in the WWE ring before SmackDown started, which was the scariest experience of my life. And I'll never forget that. And again, I'll always credit that back to you guys for everything that, like, I learned there. Like, the training, everything is training that I implement to this day. I'm sure that my students fucking hate you guys for the stuff that you've taught me that I implement on them. But
it's good though, man. It's good. That's how you build that tough love.
Oh, it's great, man. So one thing I do want to ask you, just to kind of tiptoe back and forth a little bit, do you remember what it was that initiated the spark that actually made you want to follow through with becoming an MMA fighter in the first place?
You know, I was always involved in martial arts. Like, I started doing karate from a young age when I was 6 years old. And
I wasn't kidding.
Yeah, martial arts. Not mixed martial arts, traditional martial arts. But I had been growing up, so 6, 7, 8, around the age of around 11, 12, 13, I was like a huge wrestling fan. And I would watch it religiously, right? Like, now you're going back to like the glory days, our glory days of wrestling, which is like, you know, Stone Cold, DX, you know, before that. But then my uncle was one of my best friends, and I was an only child growing up, and my uncle was my like bigger brother around, because we were not close in age, but he was the closest as a brother figure to me. And he'd be like, you're such a big wrestling fan. And not a lot of people had that appreciation that like myself and you and Ange do, but he'd be like, yeah, I gotta show you the UFC fights. So he brought me back when there was Jumbo Video, if you remember.
Of course I do.
He would go and he would rent the UFC videos, tapes, and cassette with Hoist Gracie, Ken Shamrock, Dan Severn, like Mark Coleman, like the who's who of like the not the pioneers of Canada, but the pioneers of the sport.
Yeah.
And I'd watch that and I'd be like, wow, this is freaking cool.
Yeah.
Right? And I'd be like, and that was my first real, like, okay, experience with UFC, experience with other than traditional martial arts, which I'm a big supporter of and big fan of. And growing up, that's what I grew up with and built my background.
Mm-hmm.
But watching those fights in the VHS and seeing that, I was like, from that moment on, I was like, I have to learn more. It's not enough just to learn, you know, how to punch and kick and you know what I mean, and the self-defense aspects of karate. But I knew I had to learn more. And so
this is going through your head. How old are you?
Oh, I was super young. I was probably 11, 12 years old.
So you're 11 and 12 years old thinking, this karate that I'm taking isn't enough. I need to be able to strangle and murder some motherfuckers on top of this.
Maybe not to that aspect. Maybe not strangle and murder, but definitely to heighten my horizon, right?
Okay.
Well, at that point, I had been looking for somewhere to train, but I wanted to get more contact, right? And luckily, Sean Tompkins was friends through the traditional martial arts scene with my karate sensei, which was John Marshall. Mm-hmm. And Sean hosted a mixed martial arts seminar at the dojo.
Yeah.
And I was there the first day. And that was like, wow, that shock and that awe effect that you talk about when he took over. So now imagine being a 12 or 13-year-old kid seeing the seminar, and he just captivated the room, right?
What's that Sean Tompkins spell on you?
With that spell, yeah, sure. And then you saw the size of his calves, and you saw how he moved, and you're like, wow, this guy, I got to train with this guy, right?
And for those who don't know, Sean Tompkins, I'm positive, had basketballs in his calves. It was fucking ridiculous.
I think he was tested for implants a few times. So, shortly after, a few months later, Sean got the opportunity to run classes twice a week at the dojo.
Oh, awesome.
And I was there, and I think it was like February 5th. Like, I remember to the day, it was like I was in the 8th grade, and it was in February. And that first day, myself, Sam Stout, Mark Hominick were all there in the karate class, and they only did it, not karate class, but in the karate dojo, and they only did it twice a week, Tuesday nights and Thursday nights. And I was there day one. And then all the way from then, training on Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, and then once a couple months passed by, Sean invited us, and he saw that, okay, like, first of all, like myself, but like he saw that Sam and myself were progressing, invited us to come to his school, because at that time he still had his own school in Tillsonburg, Ontario. Yeah. Okay? So, hey, get up. While Cat wants to make his debut too. So we would train Tuesday night, we would train Thursday night, and then Saturdays we would drive to Tillsonburg, which is almost an hour away from London, right?
Yeah. Yeah, about that.
And we would go there and we would spar. And I remember Sean would like line us up. We'd be lined up, and he would spar with everybody one round, right? And I remember Did
he ever wear headgear, ever?
No, not that I've seen. Maybe he did when he was sparring. Like, probably not, to be honest. Probably.
Because sorry to sidetrack you. I just remember seeing in pictures sparring like the wildest fucking guys, like Vanderlei. That picture was in the gym and just no headgear. Like he didn't give a shit.
Yeah. Probably not the best idea, but you always do that, and I don't recommend it always.
No.
But he would literally run through the whole gym. Everybody would get one round with him.
Yeah.
And then he'd probably do that like 3 times soon. So basically, he would spar 30 rounds. Like he'd be on basically straight, nonstop. Not 30, but probably like 12 rounds. Everybody would get a round in with him, right?
Sure.
And the first time I had a bloody nose was from Sean, and I was like, okay, this guy is legit. This guy is legit. Like that was a big thing, right? Like I had been training martial arts for so long, but I hadn't seen my own blood from my nose, right?
That
I
makes
was
sense.
like, this is legit. And so that's when like the juices just became flowing, like, and I just loved it, and I loved the training, and I was within 6 months, I had my first kickboxing fight.
Where was that?
But in an exhibition fight in Tilsonburg.
Okay.
And then I never looked back, right? And then here we are.
So I guess to the, like, in regards to your first fight, so I've asked this question to the wrestlers that I've talked to so far, and I'm actually really curious to kind of see how this translates into the MMA world. But I do feel like when we have that moment, like when we first start to chase our dreams, that we realize a couple of different things. That this is going to be way harder than I originally thought, and that this isn't really what you thought it was going to be like in the first place. I think we all kind of hit those walls. We get like kind of dejected and whatnot, and we just kind of question like what the hell we're doing there, especially in a fight, right? What was like the biggest obstacle for you when you first started, and how'd you get through it?
Well, the biggest obstacle when I first started, I was a young kid. I was like 13, 14 years old. So there was no obstacle. Maybe just trying to convince my parents that that I wasn't going to be a pro fighter. I think that was probably, in all honesty, that was probably the biggest obstacle, because I was a young kid and I just loved the sport, and I would be obsessed. Like I'd sit in school and I'd be in the 9th grade and I'd be just thinking about combinations and triangle chokes and you know what I mean? And like that was in my head, right? And then I knew, I was like, this is what I want to do.
So then, okay, so what was your first like aha moment then? Like when you first realized that like, okay, this isn't just, I'm not just, I'm good at this. Like I can genuinely make a living at fighting, and I can move forward with this, because you did so at such a young age. So like, when was that first like real moment that sparked you? Just like, shit, I can do this.
Probably when I turned pro. It wasn't really like, not even
That's what I would have said, because you took your first pro fight
on
when
I
your
was
prom night.
Yeah, I missed prom to turn pro. Yeah.
That's gangster.
Yeah. So, but like, yeah, even that, I would say that was like, I could make, okay. And I had won in dominant fashion and won by TKO in the 3rd round. And I was like, okay, maybe I can do this as a career.
Hell yeah.
But even at that point, I was in high school, right? Like, so you're just a young kid and you're just full of piss and vinegar, and like, but the world is your horizon, right? So you can, anything. But yeah, probably my first pro fight. Because I knew I was going to turn pro.
Right.
I knew I was going to fight pro because of the people I trained with.
How many fights did you have as an amateur before you turned pro?
Probably close to 30.
Because you and Sean and Mark and Sam would hit the road like almost on a every weekend basis and just find places to fight, would you not?
We would travel everywhere.
And who else was in that van? There was Brian. Oh, Nick Ronanelli.
Who he was actually Sean's like original like right-hand man student, right? Like he
You still speak to Nick?
Very rarely on the occasion if we see each other, but I think he's living in Fort McMurray right now.
Okay. That's pretty cool. If you ever do get a chance to talk to him again, please send my love to him. I feel like he had a sour taste in his mouth about me after everything that happened with Sean. And that's a talk that I always wanted to have with him, just because Nick always meant a lot to me, just because he really helped me out a lot when I first started there. So please send my regards and let him know that I still think about him all the time, actually.
For sure.
So the next question is, this is a bit of a free-for-all question, and I was literally debating going back and forth on a couple of different things. And then I was just like, you know what? I could ask you MMA questions all day, but you've done how many fucking MMA interviews? People can go and they can find all this stuff on like Wikipedia if they want to find out your records and all that jazz. One thing that we reiterated when we first started this chat was that we didn't really necessarily just become friends because of MMA. We became friends because of pro wrestling, was really how we kind of like bonded. What a lot of people may not know is that you were there for in person with Sean in Las Vegas for the infamous CM Punk pipe bomb promo, which is literally one of the most legendary 10, 11 minutes that has ever occurred in pro wrestling history. It's one of those things that's still talked about to this day. His silhouette is literally the logo for one of the t-shirt companies that we actually do business with. That was such a legendary night, and you were there. What are your memories of that night and just being there as an MMA guy, being a wrestling fan? You know?
Yeah, no, it was a wicked experience. And at that point too, like CM Punk, he was on the come up as well, right? He wasn't the CM Punk that he is now, right? Like he was on the come up.
That was the night that he made himself, like he was on his way up, but that was the night that he rocketed into like another stratosphere. Like there wasn't many. There was him, and then there was like whatever second place is down here.
Yeah. No, it was an incredible experience, and I've had the opportunity to actually see the WWE in multiple different cities. You know what I mean? And a lot of the help was actually because of you, right? Like I've saw it in London and in Toronto, and I think we were together in Toronto. You know, a couple times.
We've gone to a show. We've gone to WWE in London. We went to WWE we went to Raw in Toronto, where remember we were actually employees for the night because we were seat fillers.
That's right.
And one of the funniest memories I have from that night, Ange, is the very first match of the night. I want to say it was the Usos that were coming out, but they had pyro. Poor Chris wasn't ready for this shit. And this pyro is not the most silent thing I ever heard in my life. And I just remember I was talking to Jesse Gross, who was like sitting to my left here, and Chris was like right over to Jesse. And then I just remember talking to him, and then the pyro went off. And if this was like Chris sitting from here, it was like a fucking cartoon. He's like, ah! Like he couldn't have shot any further higher than he did. And was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And if anyone's been to any other like the shows, like they're ridiculous, right? So, yeah, I mean.
Oh man, that was amazing. Now, another question I've got is just because, I mean, like you are.
I'm not done yet. But I was also with the opportunity when I trained in Montreal and I trained under TriStar. I had the opportunity to go to WWE when I was in Montreal, and another epic.
That's right.
WWE. I trained with John Chamberg, who is the fitness guru, strength and conditioning wizard that comes out of Montreal, and he trains all like the top hockey players, the Canadians, and anybody who's anybody in the conditioning game. If you're in the 514, you train with John Chamberg.
Yeah.
And he had actually a bunch of the guys come from the WWE when they were in town, train at the gym at APC.
Yeah.
Performance Center, his name, ironically Adrenaline as well.
Yeah.
And I think it was Kofi Kingston or one of the guys came, and I didn't see him there, but then he offered John some tickets, and then so myself and John Chamberg, I think was Dave Loiseau went as well, and that was an epic WWE because on that night we were probably second or third row at best, and Jerry Lawler had a heart attack right in front of me, the King.
Yeah, I remember you text messaged me like right away, and you were just like, yo, are you watching this? And I was just like, wait a sec, yeah, why are you? And you're like, no, I'm fucking here. And you're like sending me pictures, and I was like, wait, what? Like, my mind was blowing on like 14 different levels at this point, but that is insane. You have literally been at you have seen some extremely like amazing, legendary, and unfortunately not so memorable, but like, yeah, you've been there for some pretty important moments, man.
I've had some pretty sweet, opportunities with my WWE viewing experience.
Yeah. So one question I've got for you, just because there have been, I remember how MMA guys felt with about pro wrestlers transitioning into MMA. And I still feel like there's a bit of that stigma. I think Brock maybe helped it. I don't think Punk did much to maybe keep that cause going. But, guys like Lashley, guys like even Jake Hager, who's undefeated in Bellator, cans, mind you, but I mean, he's still new to this, and that's how you grow. There's been a lot more MMA stars that are transitioning into pro wrestling.
Right.
Like you've got obviously Ronda Rousey, you've got, Brock, who went back, even guys like Tom Lawler, guys who we're familiar with, Matt Riddle, and they're being successful at pro wrestling. Is it something that you ever considered doing? And like, why haven't you ever done it? You're young. Like people forget, like,
I think this is a really good question, because I think this has been like Chris's like little dream that he's wanted to do. Like, he's told me before, like, he would love to do like a match, and I'm like, well, why don't you? Like, you obviously could. Like, didn't he host an Impact show?
No, he didn't host an Impact show. It was a company that we're not going to say their name because they can go to hell. We'll just call them. They were a show in London.
Okay.
Yes. So him and I so he's actually done a couple of different things so far in pro wrestling. He was my weapon in a match in Kitchener, where he came and beat somebody up for me, thank God. And then I had him come out, and we did this thing at the show in London where he came out to do a little bit of emceeing, I believe, and then he was there with me, and I was wrestling, and then we were supposed to do this thing where it was supposed to actually turn into a match down the road. So we did our match. I think I lost. I took the pin. And then Chris came back out to MC. And the whole story of this was, it was just like, hey, it didn't matter. The story that we were going to run with was that it didn't matter what I was doing. I always felt like the guys from the Adrenaline had to come and overshadow me, like even in my own sport. And it was one of those things where we got into a bit of a tiff. I punched him. He fell down for me. Thank you, by the way. And then it was supposed to lead into something, right? And we were going to actually have a wrestling match. But then the company decided to go a different way. They made some terrible decisions. They're horrible human beings. We'll do it another time, I promise, because you know damn well that if it's something that you ever want to do, it's just a drive that you got to make. That would, in a weird way, that would be the greatest thing in the world for me, to be able to actually, because you guys helped train me to do something. It would be so cool to be able to teach you and get you involved into my world.
Definitely be a lot of fun.
I could see Chris doing that for sure. I think you would love that.
And the thing is, man, is that some guys choose not to use their MMA name to try to get by, but it'll eventually kind of come up, and you're going to get more eyeballs on you, especially from media, which is going to put more eyeballs onto shows, which is going to make your value a little bit more. And it's something that if you ever took seriously, and I would suggest strongly, if it's something that you wanted to do, you would have to take it seriously, just like the way that, if you're going to get involved in even an amateur kickboxing fight, like you got to show up and put those fucking rounds in. And it's the same with wrestling. But if it's something that you ever decided to do, I know damn well that you've already got that in your heart. So like asking you to put commitment into something is never an issue. But I do think that it's something that you could be successful with, because you're an ultra charismatic dude. That's something that you can't teach. It's just the other stuff, which is extremely teachable, So one thing.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, definitely something I will keep in my back of my mind.
Please do, because that would be the most, like I said, that'd be amazing for me. And Tid would love that too, man. So one thing where we could probably start to get Ange involved here in some questions. Sorry that you've been kind of just sitting there. We had to catch up a little bit there.
Camera show always.
So one of the biggest things I like to dive into, one of the biggest things I like to dive into on these interviews is training, and I'd like to see how everybody trains, what they do for what they're doing for their workouts and their diets, just because. You know, I'm not trying to keep this pro wrestling. I'm trying to get into different aspects of everybody, and everybody has different approaches to stuff. So what I want to talk to you about, I kind of already got an idea of how you train and whatnot. I'm sure you've probably evolved since then, but I want you to talk about like what your methodology is when it comes to training, and maybe what you would do typically for a day. We'll start with what you're doing right now during quarantine, and maybe we'll talk about how that would transition into how you would go about that maybe when we weren't. But like, what are you doing now for training?
You just take it away.
Well, we bought mats for our basement, so Chris and I roll pretty consistently. I like to think that if I can roll with Chris, I can take any girl ever. So his side control is like next level. So the amount of pain that like Chris makes me feel, like no girl can ever.
It's good pain. It's good pain.
It is. Yes, I have to preface this.
Yeah. So with us living in Sarnia now, I would still travel and train with James at Progression PJJ, just because I think he's one of the best coaches. Like he gives us everything. Like the type of guy that James is, he's so humble and he's so caring, and like he has his 2 girls and he just gives them everything.
They're sweethearts, eh?
Bella's gonna be 19. Yeah. So, yeah.
Man, what are they up to these days?
Well, he actually homeschools them.
Wow.
Bella graduated now, but yeah, they're pretty involved. They have lots of animals. They're great girls. They come and train too. Bella's a blue belt. Yeah, like James gives us everything. The training that he's given me, I've been with him almost 2 years now. Mm-hmm. It's just been phenomenal. I had never like won a match really until I started training with James, and I've won tournaments, I've won super fights, and I've like done well.
Yeah.
Like, I have won and been like, okay, like I've done well, and I can see that I've like really progressed, like the name of his school suggests. He's a great coach. So my training, like our training now, like we grapple, we'll go to Jesse Gross's house, grapple with some guys that are like local here. Chris and I lift weights. We eat pretty good. We love having ice cream in bed though. Oh my God. Like
who the hell doesn't?
Yeah, we go for long walks. Sarnia is an awesome town, and like we just moved here in December, and there's so many trails. Chris wants to buy another bike, and then I'll have his old one because he loves cycling.
I'm actually looking into buying one myself right now, just because I want to start doing the same.
They're just like maxed out. Like what is there is there. You can't order anything.
And it's ridiculous because you can go, and we've all suffered now because of COVID, but it's like now you can't even look. And I'm not a huge online shopper, like, and specifically when you're buying something like a piece of equipment, you're going to be spending hours upon hours upon hours on. You want to touch it, you want to feel it, you want to see how it is, and like there's a couple shops
and
in
they're
London
all roped off,
and it's curbside pickup. So it's basically you have to trust the company, trust the whatever, and
that's a big investment to just trust too.
So we've been very fortunate being in town here. In terms of the outdoors, there's a lot of nice trails.
Beaches.
There's a lot of nice beaches over here.
That's awesome.
We've been able to get a lot of outdoor workouts in. Right now with the quarantine, we're fortunate enough that we have the space. We built a little facility in the basement. We have mats, so circuit training and a lot of. We're fortunate we have each other, but shadow boxing. We don't have all the equipment, but we're making do, right? And there's little bank work and stuff. And a good friend of mine, Jonathan Roach, he's able to program and create programs for body weight exercise as well. And as well as I've been diving in right now. I've been stretching a lot. So the one thing I've been trying to keep up with, because everybody's at home and everyone says,
here comes the little speech.
No, because everybody's at home and everybody says they want to do things that they don't have time for, right?
Yeah.
And and we're all guilty of it. Oh, if I had more time, I would read more. I would do a hobby. I would pick up God knows whatever, you know what I mean? But like, so now the opportunity is there. You have the time. At the beginning of this, the quarantine was very strict, very, very strict, right? You're basically on house arrest.
Basically.
All of us were. So, I've been trying to get more stretching, more mobility work in. So I've been working on that. I'm trying to increase my knowledge, read more. And I think that's all. If you came out of quarantine a worse version of yourself, that's something wrong. That means you've just wasted 3-4 months of your life, right? So there's always ways that you can advance yourself, right? And you just have to make adaptations. Even with our members, we've given them content. We've charged them nothing, whether or not they've decided to help contribute to the membership fee, which some people can, some people can't. So we're not judging anybody. So we've provided everybody free content. So you really have no excuse.
It's true.
Up until 3 weeks ago, there was still snow on the ground, but you can still do these home workouts. Just because we've had some crazy weather over here. And I don't know how it's been in Kitchener, but like it was literally snowing one night. And then it's 30 degrees the next in town. So the weather's been fantastic now. You can go outside, you can run, you can do something for your fitness by all means, right? So
absolutely.
It's all just if you're willing to sacrifice and do it.
I've hopped in on a couple of Sam's classes actually, because I've got one of those Boz Rutan machines. I bought it off Kijiji, but it's that same thing that Faisal always shows himself hitting on the video. I just don't have as many of the accessories as he does, but very similar deal. I just got it set up where you got like a head, a little body, torso, and then I've got the two things that most people would use as like the little side, like for some reason like this. Like I don't understand that, where you'd have the head, body, and then this and this. So I just took those things and I just put them down here, and I got little legs now. So then I've got a head, body, and some leg kick options. You know, yeah, something to keep me sharp in the living room.
Right. I've never hit it, and I've trained lots for many years, and yeah,
they could take a shit kick in these things. Yeah,
that's awesome.
I think the one thing that that our little group from Team Tompkins Adrenaline can say, that like we kick like fucking horses. And this thing can take some shots. So I've put it to the test.
Nice. Very cool, man.
Hell yeah. So take me through like a typical day of your diet then. So like, what are you guys eating?
Well, Ange, what do you eat?
Well, I have rheumatoid arthritis, so I can't eat certain things like starchy foods, high sugar things, like really processed stuff. So we try to eat like pretty clean.
Yeah.
Chris has been going through this weird phase. I don't know why. He just is deciding to do intermittent fasting. He doesn't need to. He's like in the best shape he's probably ever been. And for some reason he's like, "Oh, you're eating? I don't have to eat right now." Like,
does he got those 45er abs going on right now?
He's got a lot.
Almost.
Yeah.
He's probably sitting at like 167, 165 on like a good day. And
you got the bulked up abs.
He's got very nice abs right now. And
his like, 45 abs were just fucking magnificent.
Yeah, I think we're pretty consistent.
I think the big thing is balance. First, it's balance. When people eat, a big thing is whole foods, right? And it's if you gonna put something in your body that doesn't go bad, that can stay on a shelf for a year or 2 years, that's an issue, right? That means
you're gonna feel like garbage.
You're gonna feel like garbage. That shouldn't be in your body, right? But if you stick to like simple, basic food, meaning like you're eating eggs, you're eating oatmeal, you're eating vegetables, spinach is your friend. Like, and it really is that simple. You do not. It's easy to say, but you don't need all these crazy diets. And if you keep discipline for 80%, 90% of your diet, of course you can indulge. Why not? You can indulge. You can have a bowl of ice cream. You can do something that makes you feel good, because at the end of the day, we're all human, right? You don't need to feel like garbage all the time. Especially, you don't need to be dieting so that you're so deprived, right? Unless you have obviously a commitment, whether it be a fight, whether it be a contest, whether it be you're trying to make a certain weight limit. But I think the big thing is is just consistency, right? Consistency of whole
Yep.
foods, eating decent, enjoying yourself, having some fun. Don't take life too seriously.
I think
Yeah.
balance is really big, because if I have to cut a certain amount of weight for a competition, like I've taken like these super fights, like these jiu-jitsu matches, you have to make a certain weight. So you have to agree on like 125 or like 130. My last one was 130 pounds. And we had just agreed on that weight a few weeks before the match, when I didn't think that there was going to be like a strict weight limit, and that there actually wasn't. I had to weigh in. I had to make 130. And so when like something like that's coming up, you just have to reel it in a bit. Like you can't have the ice cream in bed anymore. You can't do like certain things. I think volume is a big thing. So like my go-to meal when I would be like cutting weight would be spinach, onions, garlic, mushrooms.
You wouldn't smell the best.
I was gonna say that sounds horrifying, but I mean, if it gets the job done.
Huge thing in like a skillet, and then you can eat the whole thing because it's a lot of volume, but it's all really good for you, and it's gonna stick with you a lot longer.
Yeah.
That would be something that I would probably eat after training. But that's like one of the meals that I would eat if I'm dieting for something, or like for tournaments. You have to be that weight and basically compete on the same day. So you can't just make weight, have some time the next day, and then you compete. You have to weigh in and then compete at that weight. So you don't want to feel like garbage. You don't want to deplete yourself of water and salt.
Yeah.
You don't want to sit in the bathtub and boil yourself like a lobster to make the weight class, and then you're not going to do the best.
Yeah.
So you have to eat pretty consistent up until that point, so that your body is feeling good and you're not depleted of anything. So I think balance is really key, especially like with quarantine happening. Like everyone's got the quarantine 15 happening, and they're talking about they're gaining weight. There's really no reason that you would gain so much weight. Like we all get it. I'm going to work, coming home, I'm not going to the gym, but I still need that piece in my life. Like I still need the gym aspect in my life. So like we'll go and we'll roll downstairs for like 40 minutes, like just rolling, or we'll do certain things, keep your body moving. Like there's no reason to be gaining weight right now. If we're staying home so much now, and then we're slowly going back into like normal life, it's going to be like this way a long time. So we have to realize that.
Yeah.
You got to make the most of it right now.
Everything's going to take time, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to jump right back in. It's going to be a slow process.
Yeah.
Because we don't want this second wave coming. And it's pretty unfortunate the way we're thinking of, like, I think in the mindset that we can see right now with all the riots that are happening and all the protests, is that basically COVID doesn't exist anymore. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I'm seeing. Yeah, people are wearing masks, but the mask is wrapped around their chin, and you know what I mean? And they have it hanging off their ear. So
it's a weird time within a weird time.
Yeah. And if anybody told you what 2020 was going to look like, I bet you they'd say you're lying.
This is an episode of Black Mirror, and this is...
I remember one of the most like accurate, funny things that I heard all year, where somebody was just like, if you would have ever believed at any point in time in your life that the government was going to pay you to stay home for the month of 4/20 during like April of 2020, it's like the stoner's dream. If they were going to pay you to stay home for that entire month and to just get baked, nobody would ever believe that. And yet that was a thing that actually happened, where the government paid people to stay home and just do whatever the hell they needed to do for God knows what. And
it's driving people crazy. It's driving people insane now.
Yeah.
You know, all good things come to an end, and now we're over it. We want to get back. We're social creatures, right? Like everybody wants to be with people and see people and talk to people, you know, and relationships are either going to get stronger or they're going to sink. If your partner, you're stuck with that person nonstop all the time. And if you're not working, you're seeing them even more. And so if you're an essential service and you're still being able to work and giving yourselves that break from each other, and it's not necessarily like a good break, bad break, but it's a change of scenery that sometimes you need for that mental psyche of yourself, right?
100%. I totally get that. I've been lucky just because I've been an essential service worker literally since day one. I haven't really stopped. The only thing that I've stopped doing is just the shows and the wrestling portion. But I've been finding ways to keep myself busy on top of that. Like I started a project where like just to try to help out the guys on my roster, the guys and girls, where I created these t-shirts on prowrestlingtees.com / crossbody pro wrestling, if anybody wants to go and grab one, where if you go and you buy one of these shirts, like it's actually 100% of the profit gets split between the wrestler, our graphic artist, and our production staff. So I'm not taking a dime of it. Like I've tried to come up with these different ways to try to make money for my team, because it dawned on me very quickly that I was one of the lucky ones that was still able to make a bit of a living, and I wasn't hurting for money as much as, you know, some other people on my team may have been. So I just wanted to do as much as I could to try to help them out. So between that and then again, like trying to come up with like the show, trying to come up with content for like the YouTube channel, trying to come up with content for independent wrestling TV. Like there's just so many different ways that I've been keeping myself busy outside of work. And thankfully it's starting to get nice out again. So then that way I can go and, you know, take advantage of, you know, pounding some pavement and getting some good runs in. And because as you're mentioning, like it's certainly on the person to not come out of this like better than what they should be. And especially when it comes to workout, if the sun is out, like that is literally like God saying, I'm going to kickstart your metabolism for you. You just got to do the work.
Yeah.
Do the work and fuel yourself correctly, and we will help push you to lose all of that weight. At least that's how I feel anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
so
you've been doing really well. I've seen you, Ben. You're looking in shape, looking good, man. Looking good. You should be very
doing
proud
my
of
best, man. Thanks, buddy. And you know what? I'll say one more thing in regards to what you're talking about with the diet. Like, I don't know if you remember when a year and a bit ago when I was doing some other WWE work, and it was strongly suggested that I cut to 205 pounds, which is a trick that we have tried before at Adrenaline, and I was never successful. I think the least I had ever gotten down to was 213. But I certainly made that weight. I got to the 205. At one point in time, I was 198 pounds.
Nice.
I remember specifically that I hit this wall where I was in between like the 208 to 205 mark, where I couldn't get past the 208 mark. Like it didn't matter what. I would deplete myself. I would go for runs. I would just drink water all day, and just like all I wanted to do was just know that it was possible for my body to get there, and because I still had like another few weeks or whatever. And it wasn't working. And the one night I remember getting so frustrated that I was just like, I didn't know what to do. And I ended up having 2 gigantic scoops of Haagen-Dazs mint chocolate chip ice cream, because I was just like, fuck it. I'm angry. I need something to just like make myself feel better. And I woke up in the morning and I was 204 pounds.
Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta trick your body. Like your body will amaze you. Like for what you can do to it.
Yeah.
And you like something unexpected happens.
Mm-hmm.
Ice cream. Fucking ice cream is what got me through that 205 threshold. It was unreal. So how I'm going to start to wrap this up is I've got some rapid fire questions that I'm going to ask you, both of you actually. I normally have 10, but I'm probably going to take 1 or 2 out because I haven't geared them towards, they're kind of geared towards wrestling at the moment, but I'm pretty sure that I can switch them around a little bit here. So the whole point of this is, again, rapid fire. So I just want you quick thinking. You don't even have to explain yourself. If you want to, you can, but just first thing that comes to your head, okay?
Sure.
All right. So what's your favorite fight that you've been a part of?
Fight that I've been a part of? I don't know. I would say in the IFL, maybe when I fought Bart Palasevsky, where we had a couple 2 wars. But also, to be honest with you, when I fought in London was a big deal for me. It was a huge deal for me because I was able to fight in front of the hometown and fight in the backyard and have, you know, my close boys just going bananas and going crazy, and it was pretty damn cool. So I would even say that just it may not have been the biggest fight, but it might have been maybe one of the fights that meant the most to me. For sure.
What about you, Ange? Is there a fight that you've done that maybe even like we could see on YouTube, or we can link it? I'll put it in the comments section down below.
I've done a couple on YouTube. But I think my most memorable one for me was the Ontario Open last year, the Ontario Open Jiu-Jitsu Open. It's held usually in Toronto. This last year was in Oshawa. And I remember it's like the Olympics when you get there. So you're warming up in the back. They call your division. You all walk out. It's a huge stadium, and you're walking out with all the girls you're supposed to go against. I found my coach. I found James, and I was like, "Okay, I'm on mat 6." So then we all went to mat 6, and I ended up winning the Ontario Open. The year before that, I lost my first match and got submitted really bad, and I was like kind of feeling like redeeming myself. So this is my debut at the Ontario Open as blue belt. And I won the Open, and it's a big deal. Like, that tournament's pretty big, and I was so happy for myself. I was so proud. I remember, like, I got 2 submissions, so I won both matches by submissions, and I remember slapping the mat and, like, crying and, like, running up to James and just, like, hugging him. And then I called Chris because I was going to meet him. He was in Montreal, and we were going to Ottawa to watch the UFC card that night. So I called him, and I was like, I just won. I got gold. And my whole goal was, if I get gold, I'm not going to go in the absolute division, because the absolute division is like all weight classes, same belt.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't have to do absolute. I got a medal. I'm on the podium. I won. I'm going to meet you. So then I drove from Oshawa to Ottawa, and then we went to UFC that night when we watched our friend Kyle Prepolek make his UFC debut. So that's probably the most memorable for me, just because it meant the most. I was like, I just won this huge tournament, and I feel so good, and I'm like crying because I'm so happy. And then I'm gonna go see Chris, and we're gonna go watch UFC today.
And Kyle fought his ass off that fight too. He didn't get the dub, but he fought his ass off that fight. It was short notice. I remember that specifically. He did great. I was really proud of him. So the next one I'm going to ask in 2 parts, because I already know who you're going to say. Who is not in the UFC right now who should be, and why isn't Malcolm Gordon in the UFC on right now, and when is he going to be?
Yeah, I definitely think, close to heart, Malcolm Gordon deserves to be there. He's been in the game for quite some time now. He's on a 4-fight winning streak, undefeated now for the last 4 years. And the fact of the matter is that he's a finisher, right? Like, he finishes people. Like, he chokes them out, knocks them out. He deserves it. Now, I don't know why not. The flyweight division has been kind of suspect in the UFC. Like, Cejudo basically walked off, and then he was the champion. Now, I don't know what exactly their goal is going to be.
I feel like that division is just in limbo right now, as to if it's even going to continue.
Exactly. So what's going to happen with that division is, I don't know. They have enough people. They do enough shows where they should be able to, right? That would make sense. But hopefully sooner than later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Deserves a shot. And especially now with COVID, and people have that fear of traveling and stuff, and I'm sure Malcolm would not be scared to get on a plane if the man you got to fight in the UFC. So
no, that's something that you guys have been wanting for a long time, so that doesn't surprise you. Do you have another answer other than Malcolm, Ange?
I can think of a girl that deserves to be in the UFC.
Who's that?
I had a match against a girl training out of Niagara top team, Jasmine Jazavizius. So I had a match against her for the Parabellum Quintet too. And we had an awesome match. She's so tough. I had 2 black eyes by the end of it.
Oh, wow.
He fights, I believe she fights strawweight, but then does flyweight as well. She's a finisher. She's crazy strong. I've shown Chris some of her videos. She's awesome. Super nice girl. I talked to her after our match. I wanted to buy her a drink, but she was prepping for one of her fights. But she deserves to be in the UFC. She's done some fights. I don't know if you've seen her stuff. She fought for BTC. Finished the girl in like 40 seconds. I probably have. It's hard for me to remember everybody, especially but I probably saw her fight recently. So you got 2 black eyes in grappling, huh? Yeah.
It's funny because I always
not so gentle sometimes. We had a good match. It ended in overtime. I couldn't submit her. She did an awesome slam out of an arm bar. She won by control time because in PI overtime rules, you either win by submission or control time. So our match ended with her winning by control time. Awesome match, though. Super awesome promotion that they have.
I remember when my buddy Jake O'Reilly first started training jiu-jitsu, seriously. I remember he asked me for some advice because he knew that I was training, but I don't think he knew that I was more kickboxing than jiu-jitsu. And he's just like, "Do you have any advice for jiu-jitsu?" And I'm like, Yeah. You always got to open up with my personal favorite jiu-jitsu move, and it works every time. Fucking leg kick them. Who's your favorite band?
Oh, my favorite band? I don't really know if I have a favorite band.
Who's your favorite button pusher? Because I know you're an EDM guy.
Who's your favorite button pusher?
I like Martin Garrix. I was always a big fan of Martin Garrix. I came out to him on a few songs. Yeah, Dave. I love house music. I was just telling Ange when we were driving home today. I can't wait till festivals come back and people can start getting together. And
I can imagine.
Yeah, but I'm a big fan of Martin Garrix. Ange?
My favorite band is Alexis on Fire.
Nice. Got a little screamo punk girl. I like that.
I think I have 5 Alexis on Fire tattoos. I have a whole sleeve, and most of them are Alexis on Fire on my arm.
Oh wow.
My favorite song to walk out to too. I walked out to This Could Be Anywhere in the World, and I walked out to Boiled Frogs.
I love those songs.
I've loved them since I was like 11 years old. I remember I had a poster of them in my room, and I've been listening to the Crisis album since it came out, and it's like my most played on my phone. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't even know if there is an answer for this for you, but who's your favorite sports team?
Sports team? I always liked, growing up, I was a big fan of the Avalanche. I was a big fan of Patrick Waugh in hockey. But, lately there's been no sports. But I do like basketball. I'm a big fan of basketball as well. So with the Raptors when they were crushing it, the Chicago Bulls, especially, watching the Chicago Bulls, bringing back those memories. If you watched The Last Dance,
fucking right,
pretty wicked. I'm a sports teams that I would say basketball, probably the Raptors. Can't go wrong with the Raptors.
Yeah. What about you, Ange?
I'm a pretty good Montreal Canadiens fan. I grew up being a Canadiens fan. My dad kind of like showed me the ropes. I really loved Matt Sundin when I was a kid. I don't know why I had a big crush on him. But we would go to Toronto.
Swedish meatball.
My dad and I, we watched the games whenever Montreal would come.
Yep.
So I like the Canadiens.
Right on. What is the biggest goal that you have set for yourself that you've accomplished?
I think opening the academy was a big goal. You know what I mean? Being having a school that we have now, I think that's a big goal. I think, in the career now, I'm working for the government right now. I think that was a big goal for myself, and accomplishing that goal. And I think just, enjoying every day, man. And I think that's a big goal. And I think I do that. I think I'm being positive and going and getting the most out of life. And then just, I think I'm doing pretty all right.
Hell yeah, man. Ange?
I've got a couple answers for this one, I think, but I'll pick a pretty decent one. I've struggled with my mental health most of my life. And one of the goals I set out for myself probably 2 years ago was to make my mental health a priority and to make sure that I'm, not sinking below like a 5. So like we have a scale like 1 to 10 of like where you are. And I don't want to sink below that. You want to like maintain certain things in your life. And I think over the last 2 and a bit years now, my mental health has been probably the best it's ever been. And that's like a combination of like medication, treatment, counseling, having like an awesome supportive like partner, and just taking care of that. So one of the goals I set out for myself a couple years ago was to maintain my mental health. And I think I've done that. And it's something you have to maintain like over and over again, every single day, one day at a time, sometimes one breath at a time, one heartbeat at a time, and just keep going forward. Another one is I wanted to go back to school, and I've done that, and I'll be finishing at the end of this month. And then I'm going to go back to school in September. And then that'll be another goal of mine, is to complete that program.
That's awesome. And what's the next goal that you have on your list that you need to accomplish and will accomplish?
I got a few goals currently with house projects on my
handyman Horodecki.
Not ask about the fence.
Fence is done, and a few things in the house. I think it's just growth in my career, and making sure Adrenaline expands to its fullest potential. You know what I mean? I think possibly before we always thought maybe we open up a second location, but I don't think that's kind of where my head would be at. I think where we get one location and make it the best facility in the city, not only the city, but in the country, you know what I mean? Just keep climbing to the top. And the big thing is just have that satisfaction that people, and having a product that people actually believe in. And when I think of what they do, and you talked about adrenaline, how we're just more than just kicking and punching, we're a family. And I think being that family, being what people are proud to be a part of, adrenaline, I think that's big, right? And so just keep growing our facility to the top, as well as, you know, career development for myself. Those are two definite goals on the top of my list.
Andrew?
My goal is I want to open my own private counseling practice. I've worked in mental health and addiction for a long time. And the thing I liked most about it is to talk to people one-on-one and like to build a connection with them, just one-on-one, just talking about whatever, helping them maintain their mental health and keep a balance, like mental wellness for like anybody, no matter where they are in their life. So I'll be completing a program in the fall that's a professional counseling, specializing in applied psychology. And I want to open my own private practice. And I'm thankful enough that we have this house here in Sarnia that has a separate entrance with like an office in the back, so I can have a private practice at home.
Oh, that's
so that's
amazing.
my next goal. And I can really make that a career for myself. I can work for myself. Right now I work for the Canadian Mental Health Association, CMHA, and I love it. I love the organization. They've been amazing since I started. But I want to be my own boss. I want to have my own caseload. I don't want to have to take on every single client, the most difficult clients. I want to like be able to tell myself who I'm going to take on, what I'm going to do, and just talk with people. That's my favorite thing, is just talking people one-on-one with what they struggle with and walking with them like in their journey to mental wellness.
That's awesome. That's really intriguing to me.
Pretty cool.
Lastly, in the rapid fire section here, what's the best piece of advice that you can give somebody that wants to do what you do?
I would say in terms of mixed martial arts, because probably what I'm known most about is you have to engulf yourself. Passion breeds success, and if you're passionate about something and you're ready to make that full commitment to something, like if you want to be in a mixed martial arts career, if you want to pursue a career, you have to engulf yourself completely. And it's risky, right? Because mixed martial arts and professional athleticism is not easy. It's not an easy feat. A lot of factors come into play, you know what I mean? But you have to, make yourself passionate about it, make sure that's what you want to do. And that can be, mixed martial arts, but it can be anything. Surround yourself with a solid group. And if you're the strongest one in the group, that's an issue, right? So you want to be in the group of people, in a group of individuals that pull you up and that boost you up, right? And the same thing, it's like a ladder system, right? You want to help the person up on the ladder, and you want to get that ladder for the person above you to help pull you up too, right? And that's teamwork. So definitely passion breeds success. Surround yourself with the right people, right? And that's so important. And just and at the end of the day, remember that we're all human, right? So we all make mistakes. So you can be a little forgiving. Be kind to yourself too.
100%.
I'd say I probably have two. I guess for jiu-jitsu it's such an amazing sport. And I think a lot of people can do jiu-jitsu. We've trained with a lot of different gyms and stuff, and we've seen the different like people that join jiu-jitsu. You can join it for fitness, you can join it for this, you can join it for that. Like whatever you want to do. If you want to compete, you can compete. I think jiu-jitsu is so humbling, and so it gives so much back to you, especially like if you are with a team that has like such a cool philosophy, like being a part of Jiu-Jitsu for Life team, George Brito and his philosophy, like if you sit in a room with that guy, you are so inspired and you just want to do Jiu-Jitsu until you can't anymore. I think one of the things is Jiu-Jitsu is for everybody, and you should try it. And another thing is working with people with mental health. I think you have to choose empathy. I think you have to be able to relate with someone no matter what you see in them. Like Chris is asking me all the time, like, how do you work with people that are like using substances or experiencing homelessness and that kind of thing? You have to be able to relate with them on some kind of level and be like, you know what, I've been there too. I know what it feels like, and you're not by yourself. So I think if you're going to work in the mental health field, you have to choose empathy.
Well, these are good answers. So to finish the show here, guys, because we're getting to that point, I've already given you the heads up on this a little bit. So you've allowed me to ask you guys a bunch of questions, which thank you very much, by the way, and thank you very much for your time and coming on here and doing this and trying to help out my little project that I'm trying to do here. But again, I've asked you guys a bunch of questions, and I always like to try to end this off to see if there's anything that you have, any questions that you have for me, or anything that you would like to know.
All right. Well, let's throw out one question. I think, Ben, what would you like to tell the audience about something that you do when you're by yourself and nobody's watching?
The funny thing is this is what I'm doing. Literally, this is what I do. If I'm by myself, I don't really have much of a like a social life, you know. Like this kind of is my social life, you know. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to start this project, was because I feel like I've worked myself and overworked myself, depending on how you look at it. Like, I mean, I feel like it's the overworking myself has obviously gotten me to a certain point and has gotten me certain things. And so I'm thankful that I did. But, you know, as you know, when you put your time and stuff like that into something, you guys taught me to put everything I have into it. And if not, it's a waste. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's essentially how I live my life. So when we're done this, like it's for anybody who it doesn't really matter, but like we're filming this on a Wednesday night and it's 8:40 p.m. So like as soon as that we're done this, like I'm going to get to work editing this right away. So then that way I can air it. So then that way you guys can watch this currently on Sunday at whatever time I decide to put this up at. And that's it. Cause like, I don't like not doing anything, you know? I think once you've developed a real work ethic, it's not something that leaves you, and there's just doing nothing bothers you when you reach that level and you reach that point. So if anybody ever wants to know what I'm doing when you know nobody's watching, I'm working, man, and I'm thinking, and I'm watching wrestling, or I'm watching fighting, or I'm trying to do something that's going to get me better at what it is that I'm doing. So that's really it. I'm just trying to make myself better and trying to make essentially what you said, you know, one of the biggest things that's really important for me is to try to make the crew around me better. You know, it's not about me anymore. My time as far as making it in wrestling it's not going to happen in the ring anymore. I'm old, I'm hurt. That's not what the business is looking for anymore. They're looking for young and rubber, you know? So what I can do is I can still help these people, because I can still go. Like, just because I might not be that guy that, you know, one of the major companies is looking for a full-time guy in the ring, doesn't mean that I don't have that ability to get that crop of guys who should be there ready to get there. And that's something that I've really taken a huge pride in, and, you know, not just doing it in the ring, but outside the ring. And that's one of the reasons why I've created 2 different sets of shows. Like, I've got my bigger shows and I've got my showcase series shows that I do for my wrestling. So that way I can work with, you know, one set of younger talent specifically on the showcase shows and try to build them up. So then that way we can get them onto these bigger shows. And then once we get them to that level, then you know how it is. There's just, when it comes to anything that's athletic, it's nonstop levels. When you think that you've reached the top, there is no top. The top doesn't exist. It's a fictional thing that we all strive to get to that we'll never ever achieve. You know, guys like George St. Pierre will tell you that himself. He's just like, he can get better at something, and that's just my thought process. So I know it's a bit of a long-winded answer to a short question, but that's it, man. I love what I do, and I get to do that. So that's what I do.
It's awesome, man. And continuous growth, you know what I mean? And that's just the type of human beings that we are, right? Like, you tell someone, okay, what's your goal? Oh, I want $1 million. So, well, they're going to make $1 million. They're going to be happy for X amount of time, but eventually that's going to wear off, right? And that happiness is going to fade, and you're going to be like, okay, I need something else. And it's important for people to find happiness in something that they can do on a consistent basis and bring them that fulfillment. And because like you said, your body's not going to work forever. You're not going to be able to compete at a high level, whether it be pro wrestling, whether it be mixed martial arts, whether it be jiu-jitsu. You can't compete at that high level all the time. So what's going to make you happy? What's going to allow you to keep showing up, give you a reason to wake up in the morning, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is that like, what happens when you do accomplish those goals? Then you got to go to bed that night, and then you got to wake up the next day, and then what?
Yeah. So you'll go, you'll celebrate for a day, 2 days, 3 days, a month, right? But then eventually we're successful people. And I heard a nice quote, is that successful people, they're always a little off.
Yeah.
They're always a little off. A little weird, because you don't find a successful person to be a completely well-balanced person. You know what I mean? Successful people are workaholics. They're obsessive compulsive. You know what I mean? And they're very, what's the word I'm looking for? Like attention to detail, attention orientated, detail orientated, right? So that's what a successful person is. You're not going to say, oh, I'm looking at Bill Gates and he's just, oh, he's a great guy. You know, he's fully well balanced. You know, he wakes up, he does his 10-minute routine. No, it's like they're a little off because they work so damn hard to get where they are.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what breeds success. But remind you, we're all human. So make sure you give yourself a breath. Take that 5 minutes and work on your mental health.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And what a good way to wrap this up, guys. So I just want to let everybody know that you can find this show on our Twitter and our Instagram at Big Ben AF Podcast, as well as on Facebook under the name Big Ben and Friends Podcast. You can find us on YouTube just by searching the show name, because we don't have enough subscribers at the moment to actually have a channel name yet. So if you could go subscribe, that would be very, very helpful. And then maybe we can actually have a real channel name and appear somewhat legitimate, and maybe help us find some sponsors. You can also find the audio version of the show on Anchor, which distributes the show to Spotify and iTunes for me. So then that way you can search up any of those platforms and you'll be able to find this show no problem. You can find me personally on all of my social medias at Big Ben is Angry. Do not find me on Facebook, please. CBPW and Crossbody Pro Wrestling Academy, you can find at CBPW Academy on social media. You can find us, our YouTube channel for Crossbody at youtube.com/Crossbody Pro Wrestling Academy. One thing that we are doing this month as well, guys, is that we're doing a huge, as huge as we can make it. We're trying to raise as much money we can for the Black Lives Matter campaign here in, I believe it's Toronto. The website is blacklivesmatter.ca. It's a group that's been chosen by our predominant, our black guys on our roster, essentially. I hate saying it like that, but it's just one of those deals where I wanted to help do something. So I messaged and spoke with Justin Sane and our tag team champions Embassy. And we've gotten together to collaborate on 2 different t-shirts that you can buy at prowrestlingtees.com/Crossbody Pro Wrestling Academy. 100% of those proceeds of those 2 shirts, on top of many other shirts of people who have offered theirs as well, like Justin Sane, myself, the company t-shirts, the Showcase Series t-shirts, Crystal Moon, Mr. Atlantis. There's a bunch of people who were offering up 100% of the proceeds of all of our shirt sales for this month, on top of whatever we make from Independent Wrestling TV. So if you have us on independentwrestling.tv, please watch as much content of ours as you can, because that's how we get paid, is by view time. If you haven't and you want to go and see our bigger shows, and you want to see what Crossbody Pro Wrestling is all about, go to independentwrestling.tv. Use the code CROSSBODY to get 5 free days, because we get a kickback on that as well, and that's going to go into the pile as well. So at the end of this month, we're going to take everything that we have collaboratively earned, and we're going to be donating 100% of that money to, again, www.blacklivesmatter.ca. Which is something that is, again, is very, very important to us and for our team to be on that side and to do what we can to help. So do you have any final comments, brother, or Ange as well?
I appreciate, man. Again, I congratulate you on all your success. And
thank you. And where can we find you guys on social media, please?
check us out. I'm at Chris Horodecki, all one word. Check me out on Instagram. My Twitter is basically, I don't want to use it much anymore.
And on Instagram, I'm Ange, BJJ, ANGE, BJJ on Instagram.
Awesome. I'm gonna put those down.
I just want to commend, Ben, you're doing a great job, not only from promotion standpoint, keeping involved, but people getting out there, donating, contributing for a cause like what's out there today. It goes a long way, man. And every little bit helps. And getting people to be knowledgeable about what's happening in the world and expanding their knowledge is so important, man. It's so important because we live in a crazy world right now, and the most important thing is that we're all together.
100%. And with that being said, guys, I want to thank you very much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Big Ben and Friends podcast. Again, I am Big Ben Ortmanns along with Chris Horodecki, and we got Ange with us as well this week. Again, I'm putting their social medias down in the comments section below or whatever the description channel is. Go follow them. They're both wonderful people. We will see you guys next week. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Ben. Take care.
You too.